What's up, everyone? We are back again. TLN Live. Alex, we just did this, but a lot has happened since we last spoke.
Yeah. Been a little bit of a whirlwind, but we did a pre-draft. Now we're here for the post-draft.
That's right, and I'm pulling up the YouTube Live right now so I can see your comments. Drop in your thoughts, your takeaways.
I know everybody has thoughts. We need to hear them.
Yeah, we do. I know you have a lot of thoughts. By the way, we're going to have two coaches on. We're going to have new Carolina Chaos head coach Roy Colsey, but first, we're going to have Atlas head coach Mike Pressler on. Very excited to talk to both of these guys about their newest picks. We'll have them on in about 5 minutes, but Alex, I got to get your rapid reaction to what we just saw. 𝐓𝐄 𝐋𝐀𝐂, number one. Did you think there was any way that Joe Spallina would end up with both of the midfielders we talked about in Andrew McAdory and Sam English, and then he also came back around in the second round, and I think he even said, he's like, I'm interested in that 10 pick. Someone's going to slide, and it turned out to be Chris Kavanagh.
Unbelievable job, honestly. Round of applause for Coach Joe Spallina. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
What a cleanup.
I almost said it to him when we were talking about those three players. I was like, you know, you got two of the top three picks, but you can't get all three of those guys. I never would have thought Chris Kavanagh would have slid to number 10. I think that was the story of at least the first two rounds was Chris Kavanagh's slide. It might end up being the biggest story of this draft, but there were a couple other interesting drafts. We saw Ben Weyer and Ben Ramsey both go late in this draft. Both guys who were mocked really high on all the big boards. Anything else about that stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, on the Chris Kavanagh point, he wasn't even the first Notre Dame attackman taken.
That was crazy.
Jake Taylor went right before him.
Bill Deaton, I see you in the comments section, as well as Groovy and Lax Weaver. Everyone, let me know who your favorite draft pick was. I've got the comments up right here. If you got a question for Coach Pressler or Coach Colsey, let us know in the comment section. I think we all might have some questions for Coach Colsey. We're going to have to get to the bottom of what their thoughts are on this draft. They only had 3 picks.
Bill Deaton, oh my God, I just checked the DMs.
We see you, Bill. We see you,
Bill. You're good, man. You're good.
Awesome. Okay. So wild first round. We're going to have Pressler on anyway. It's still buzzing, by the way, here. Like the energy of just what went down. You know, 32 new PLL players were selected.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of looking around the studio. I know it's off camera to you guys, but a lot of energy in this room right now.
Tons. Who's your overall favorite draft?
Man,
who won the
favorite draft? I honestly, like, every time the Redwoods made a pick, I was like, dude, that's a good pick.
I feel the same way about the Water Dogs. Every single pick
were probably my second pick. And like when you look at our Instagram feed, the guys who we had selected,
we did 9 heroes. 4 of them went to the Water Dogs.
Yeah, so that tells you they got guys not only in the first round, beyond 𝐓𝐄 𝐋𝐀𝐂, they did a really good job getting guys who are going to, you know, bring some juice to your team, whether that's, you know, just eyeballs or points or on the defensive end, takeaways, whatever it is. They got some really, really fun players. And Alex, you got to tell us the first MCLA player drafted in PLL history. The first. If you go back to the MLL, you could say calm, bro, chill. But since the iteration of the PLL, we had never seen an MCLA player go. Dylan Hess, what do you take
We had Spencer Hupp taken, but that was after the draft. This is the first MCLA draft selection.
Yes.
Now we got to caveat this. He was an All-American for 4 years at Georgetown.
Right.
However, shout out to the Florida Gators.
Right.
Just producing talent. Their head coach, Garrett Hanrahan.
Yes.
Making boys into men down there, I hear.
Yeah, it sure seems that way. And I've heard he's been playing some attack for Florida, so they're letting him have some fun. I mean, this guy must feel like he's on top of the world.
That's what it's all about. They also won their first round playoff game.
Yeah.
Won their first round playoff game. Dylan Hess gets drafted.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive for that.
And we got a chance to speak to him not that long ago at the end of last year. And if you think about his last 6 months, you know, he transfers to Florida. He had the intention of playing football. It doesn't work out for him. He probably thinks, man, my athletic journey is over at that point. But then guess what? You get a call from the Florida club team. Sure, I'll play. Why not?
Hey, man, we got an open roster spot. You also don't have to play defense, and you can play attack.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be at practice tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll play attack, and then you still get drafted again. Like, think about all the guys who, you know, you get drafted, you didn't, you know, you chose something else. They came back around to him, and Dylan Hess got his second chance. I'm super excited to watch him at the PLL level.
Yeah. I agree completely. Other than Dylan Hess, like another guy that slipped, quote unquote slipped, Ben Ware, dropped to the 3rd round.
Yeah, and we saw him ranked as high as number 2 in Adam Lamberti's PLL draft big board. And now he did drop a few spots, but in his subsequent updates to his big board. But Adam was
he's a hell of a player.
Adam was really big on him. I think he brings a lot. Clark said it best on the draft show, but he brings a lot on the offensive end. It's just a matter of can he be a guy who holds his own on the defensive end of the field. So I think in the PLL, transition is kind of a little easier with 10 yards out of the middle of the field.
Yep.
He might be a better player in the PLL than he is in college.
Who's apparently better is Jack McDonald.
Yeah.
People are talking.
We're going to have to get to the bottom of the Jack McDonald pick. That was maybe the biggest head scratcher, but we're going to get a chance to talk to Coach 𝐂𝐂 about that. Just to preview a little bit of what we'll get from Pressler up first. He had 4 picks. The New York Atlas did. They took Matt Trainer. Love that pick in the first round. Max Krevsky, Michael Grace, and Hugh Kelleher. So midfield heavy draft for them with 1 long pole mixed in there. Former D3 guy. Super stoked to ask him about that.
Backyard Lacrosse in the chat. Little side note here.
Okay.
We'll get more to this Atlas bit. We have plenty of time to talk Atlas.
Oh, I see you.
Yeah, we got Backyard Lacrosse. What's up, TLN?
Yeah.
Mason Hannon's got a roll woods. We got Dante Cision. Sick name. Let's go Chaos.
I see you guys in the chat, and I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. Again, we're going to have Mike Pressler on here in just a minute. I see him just off stage. He's chatting it up with Paul Rabel, though, and I think that's a little more important than talking to us. But.
Yeah, Laxweaver 14 says, Joey Spallina not being picked is crazy.
No, it's not.
We got news for you, brother. He's not draft eligible.
Next year. You really think that Joe Spallina would let his son go undrafted? Come on, that was never
I was
happening.
thinking about that, and it's like, I wonder if there's an unspoken thing between these GMs and head coaches that don't go for the Spallina family.
Yeah, I know.
That would be an epic story. But then, you run the risk.
Think of the trade value.
Yeah, but bro, I'm also saying, if you let that go, you put Joey Spallina with Chris Cavanaugh, you got a legitimate problem to deal with.
That's true. That's going to be really interesting if that's the case next year. One other note I want to call out, just a couple of goalies selected. Logan McNaney went in the 2nd round, and then Emmett Carroll in the 3rd. I'm a big Emmett Carroll guy.
I was more McNaney.
You think they went in the right order?
I do.
Okay.
I do. That's why I had the McNaney graphic prepped instead of the Carroll one.
Right. And okay. All right. Fair enough. I'll say I do think that McNaney has a clearer path to the field with going to the Outlaws. Sean Scanoni retired. He's just got to beat out McElroy for the starting job.
Well, we had McNaney mocked to the Whipsnakes in our TLN mock. Yeah.
Well, the Whipsnakes ended up getting Emmett Carroll.
Yep.
They got Brendan Krebs.
What a great situation for the Whipsnakes to be in.
They did have the retirement of Bernlohr, so they did have to add a goalie, but I don't know. I mean, those are 2 very similar profile, big body goalies. I'll be interested to see who ends up starting. And we got our coach.
Here we go. We got Coach
Pressler.
Yep. Here we go, man. Up. This is all you.
Yep.
That's all right. There's
It'll go down.
It sits down, and there's a little lever on the side. I had to do the same thing.
There we go. So we got Coach Pressler on the set right now after his draft. He's working on the chair right now, but yeah. There we go.
Nailed
okay.
it.
All right. So we're live. If you want to pick up. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, Coach Pressler, I got a quick icebreaker here. You're a coach at Highland Park in Texas. Are you at all familiar with the Chris Walker highlight tape on YouTube? How many times? Because I've also seen it many times. I think about 2,000 of those views are probably mine. I think it's the greatest high school mixtape ever.
Yeah.
Would you put it up there with one of the best mixtapes that you've seen?
It's quite impressive. Yeah. He's a stud. And what a job of choreography of putting that together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of polls. Yeah. There's some business to take care of with the Atlas and some defensive selections here.
Yeah. Actually, your 3rd round pick, I want to skip to that real quick, just because I think Mike Grace is super interesting.
Very interesting. We love D3 here.
Yeah. So former D3 guy. If you don't know the Mike Grace story, from Canada. D3 guy, played at RIT, was a champion there, transferred to Syracuse this year, and has really been a solid piece of their defense. But, Coach, I'm curious what you see in Mike Grace.
A lot of my Canadian friends, Taylor Ray, coaches St. Joe's, Team Canada. Yeah. 𝐓𝐇𝐄 was a huge fan.
Really?
Nice. Yeah,
I think you got to do what he says.
And so some opinions I really value. I watched the Syracuse-Duke game, the ACC final. I've watched 4 or 5 Cuse games.
Yeah.
You know, everybody raves about the Dwan kid, and he's going to be a pro down the road. This guy kind of falls under the radar. We don't need another number 1.
Right.
You know, we have that in Gavin Adler.
Yeah.
You know, Brett Makar's a 1A.
Yeah.
You know, we need a number 2 or 3.
Right.
And it's 6'5", left-handed.
Yeah.
And he's versatile. He can play in a pinch up top and behind. So, great ground ball guy.
Insane stick skills on that guy. He's huge. If you watch him do ground balls, he can just, first off, like just in one hand, scoop the ball, and all he does is just swim dodge you with his pull lateral. Yeah. He's huge with awesome stick skills. I love the pick.
And he's played for Team Canada, I'm pretty sure, at the World Games he did. So he's played on this level before. He may be a former D3 guy, but he's played on the highest level. And one interesting story, I don't know if you ever came across this, but did you ever read the story about him when he was at RIT and he went home one summer and he dug fence posts for his cousin and it like built up his body, like he came back to RIT, like gained like a bunch of weight. I think it's
I got a call with him tomorrow. I'm going to ask
him about the auger.
Ask him about
if he has an auger.
Digging fence posts, because I feel like that's one of the grittiest stories I've ever heard. There's not to go too far, but the famous story of Red Grange. He used to carry ice blocks, and he was the ice man, and that's how he got so great.
Yeah, you gotta call him fence post.
That's a real throwback. He had black and white days, but I thought of that when I thought of Mike Grace. I was like, that is the grittiest way to go home and make and build muscle over a summer and then come back a completely different player. But I also want to talk about the midfielders you got. So you took
Kev, real quick. Can I get into this LSM situation?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Coach, I'm the resident defensive-minded guy at the Lacrosse Network. So you traded, or I don't know if it was a trade or it was just an acquisition of 𝐓𝐇𝐄 𝐋𝐀𝐂𝐑𝐿. You also have Kobe Smith. I'm a big fan. Tyler Carpenter, I'm an even bigger fan. He's a North Carolina boy. So am I. You have an absolutely stacked lineup at long stick midi. Is Michael Grace going to go close, or is he going to go up top?
That's the beauty of drafting him. He gives you that he can swing and do both very well. Playing a lot of close for Syracuse right now.
He's playing close now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he gives you great value.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, you know, we saw him in the 3rd round and didn't hesitate on that one.
Yeah. Told you, I love the pick. I'm sticking to it. Great pick.
Yeah. Now am I good to go to the midfielders? All right, cool. I'm an offensive guy, so I want to talk about the guys you got on that side of the ball, but specifically Matt Traynor. I feel like he was a guy that, for whatever reason, was kind of under the radar for the first half of this college season. I know he dealt with an injury, but I think he's one of the best offensive players.
Separated shoulder.
Yeah, and he came back and he's played super well. I'm curious what you think he brings, because I think he's got some attack flexibility too.
Well, he's playing attack for Penn State right now.
Yeah.
He's a midi at the pros.
Right.
He would prefer to come out of the box, come down the alley, come off the wing. The thing I love about Matt is that he can beat you off the dribble. He's incredible without it. He's a great passer, and we pass the ball extremely well with the Atlas on offense. So he's a midfielder that doesn't have to have the ball in his stick. And when you got Shelley and Teat, 2 of the best attackmen in the game, if you're open, they're going to get it to you. Trainor's in a good spot, in a really good spot. 6'2", 195, fits the bill that way.
That's what I thought, that when his build was the first thing that I thought of. You pair him with Docs. What an absolute
you have a type, I would say, at midfield.
That's another really good one. We love Traynor.
Yeah. And then to skip to your 4th round pick, Hugh Kelleher is kind of that same type of thing. Huge, big body. Like, can you imagine him and Traynor and
we
Doc?
were shocked he was still there.
Really? Do you think that part of that has to do with his availability? Like, wasn't he at one point in the transfer portal for football?
In that I spoke with you.
Okay.
And that was that's not going to happen.
Okay. Excellent. That's exciting.
He's coming out to play in the PLL. Got a full-time job.
Yeah.
And the football dream is behind him.
Okay.
But he had 4 goals.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the
4 goals versus Princeton on 44% shooting. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. 6'3", 225, downhill guy. And the thing I love about Hugh is that he has great upside.
Yeah.
He's getting better and better and better with his growth. And, the big middies that can kind of go downhill and engage against these short sticks in the PLL, they're invaluable. And
Yeah.
Yeah, now
not for us.
I was just talking about midfield size. Now you got Docs, you got Trainer,
Yeah.
you got Keller.
That's what I'm saying.
And you got,
Miles.
obviously you have Miles. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
It's crazy. It's kind of unfair.
And then Max Kresge.
Yeah.
He's 6'2", 200.
Yep,
Right.
Rescue from Yale.
Yeah, and he's a two-way guy.
Yeah.
And he could be actually a defensive midi for us.
So I was curious what you think he is for
he
you
could
guys.
be maybe for us a defensive midi to start.
Yeah.
And then be a two-way guy where he kind of traps some guys down there.
Uh-huh.
And again, a huge honor. In Yale, they have one captain. One captain at Yale.
Yeah.
Chosen by the players.
Yes.
And Max was their captain this year.
Really?
So that tells you a little bit about Max and his relationship with Yale Lacrosse.
Yes. Yes. No, that is very impressive. And did you watch him in the Ivy League tournament? Both him and Hugh Kelleher. I feel like they played their best ball like
Against
late
each
here.
other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. In all those games. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of going to you personally, though. This is now your third draft, right? And so I'm curious, how have things changed? If you feel like you kind of got the rhythm of this, you can own it now a little?
Well, I think this year was much different than my first 2 years. Year one, we had 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Year two, we had two.
Was that the
Maycar Adler.
Maycar Adler, yeah.
Yep. This past year, we had Shelley at 2, Entim at 5,
Yeah.
Stevens at 10.
So sick. Such a sick draft.
And then we traded the third-round pick to the Redwoods for the Chris Gray trade.
Yep.
And so we didn't have
That
it.
panned out well.
But we picked up Tyler Carpenter in the 4th round.
Yep.
The steal of the draft.
Yeah. Some are saying you can build a team, coach.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the pros, it's all about the draft, it's all about the GM, and it's all about the locker room.
Yeah.
You know, you win the locker room, you get the right people in there. Trevor Baptiste said it from a watch party.
Yeah.
You know,
I thought that was awesome.
You get those guys in there, and we do. And then you have some kind of new pieces in there going into training camp. You know, we're thrilled to get going here.
Yeah, I feel like I was thinking about just like going into the draft, and we did our TLN just did like a 4-round mock draft. It was so hard, like placing guys onto teams that are already stacked. Atlas being one of them, where it's like you don't have a lot of holes to
What
fill.
are the Atlas needs?
What do you do?
I don't know.
You know, like would it help to have Trainer? Be like, yeah. Would it help to have Michael Grace? Yeah, but it's like, dude, like that team is already so good.
Right.
That's the beauty
If
of
we
it.
had made this mock draft what you did, and I think this is a great, but people would say, do they need that many midfielders? Like,
Yeah.
do they need that? Do they need 3 more midfielders? You know, I think that you've proved a lot of people wrong pretty quickly. Like after that first year, I don't know how much you read the noise or everything.
I don't read
outside
any
stuff.
noise.
Okay.
I'm not on social media. For a lot of personal reasons, I don't.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Well, you know the result of the first year. It was not a great record. Bounced back last year, you know, the explosive offense, and now the first 2 picks, the 2 polls, like have become such a huge part of your core and what you guys do on that side of the field. And then you add Liam Entenmann last year. I just think that the Atlas these past couple of years and now into this draft, you've done an incredible job building your roster. And I know you say you don't listen to the noise, but how do you, in the locker room, thinking back to that first season, you know, how do you go, I'm not losing this locker room. Everyone needs to buy in and believe. How do you maintain that?
Well, I think you got to have your own guys.
Yeah.
And you do that in college when you recruit them. You recruit your own guys. In the pros, it's a lot easier because you can release guys.
Right.
You can draft guys. You can sign them as free agents. So you have a couple different mechanisms. In college, it's just recruiting.
Right.
In the PLL, it's draft and free agency.
Yeah.
So you have that apparatus to bring in not only your type of player, but your type of young man. And we've spent a lot of time vetting that over the course. And then you add, we signed the 3 captains to 3-year deals. Trevor Baptiste, Danny Logan, and Jeff Teat.
Yeah.
Are signed for 3 captains, the 3 best players in the planet.
Yes.
At their positions.
Yeah, it helps when your glue guys are also superstars.
Yeah.
Superstars
And locking them up long term is huge.
Captains.
Yes.
And then you add some depth here with this draft, and we like where we're headed in 25.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I love it.
Yep. All right. Well, Coach, that's all the time that we got. That was fantastic. You got fans in us, and congrats on a great draft. We're looking forward to seeing
Awesome
you.
job,
All right, man.
Coach.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Oh, thank you. Saw that? Anyway, yeah, all right. We got Roy Colsey coming on next. New head coach of the Carolina Chaos. This is going to be a big one. All
What's
right,
up?
Roy.
Doing very
Good,
well. How are
good.
you, Coach?
Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
I'll come on over.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you.
Good
Yeah,
to see you.
thank you.
For the people just watching, that was a mega firm handshake.
Yeah.
That's I wouldn't want to guard Coach Colsey. But Coach, so I'm the resident North Carolina guy on staff, so I live in Charlotte.
Awesome.
Yeah, the stadium that is the homecoming week for the Chaos is like 10 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
So stoked to have both you and GM Ford back in the building.
Yeah, it was cool. You know, the ACC championship obviously was just down there, so
Yeah.
I was watching the games intently. Obviously, I'm a huge ACC fan, but seeing the stadium and then the guys standing, you know, people were watching the games from buildings above it. I was like, man, I can't.
On the parking deck, right?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
like,
because
I can't wait to get there.
The community college is right beside
Okay,
it, and so
okay.
like when people like teachers and students and faculty, they get off, they see like lacrosse going on, they
Yeah.
go up to the top.
What an awesome stadium. Yeah, we're pumped. I can't wait to get down there and get started. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
So walk us through the first round. So obviously you traded back. What?
We had a sense.
What
We had a
was that?
sense of, you know, that where the two lefties were going to go. Right, we were going to be one, and we knew the Cannons were going to be the other. And,
Yeah.
and basically, we couldn't get above 4. We certainly talked about maybe
Yeah.
trying to get up to 3 with the Redwoods. But
So
ultimately,
the significant deal that was on the table that Joe Spallino alluded to was it from you guys?
we did talk about it. It involved you know a situation for us that I wasn't comfortable with, but it was one of those things we talked about, and we felt like we knew what we wanted in the first round, and we could get him at 8 either way, right?
Yeah.
Look,
So that was your guy.
Yeah, well, you know what? Coulter's amazing too. I mean, they're both awesome players.
Right.
They're not the same.
What do you think makes them different?
Coulter's quickness and his speed. He's extremely elusive. He's very hard to get your hands on. He's like a water bug, you know. He's just
Yeah.
the way he moves and
Right.
and more of a with ball guy.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, equally good dodging, but less off ball. And I think. For us, you know, I mean, watching Owen Hiltz, obviously I'm a Syracuse grad and a Syracuse fan as long as they're not playing Virginia where my boys go.
Yeah.
When I watch him play, I'm amazed at his IQ. I mean, he never makes a bad play. He goes quietly 2 goals, 3 assists, 3 goals and 2 assists in every game. And the way that he moves the ball, I notice a lot. As the ball is into his stick, he already knows where it wants to go.
Right.
It's almost like he's not catching it; he's just redirecting it.
Right.
So for an offense in the PLL, I
Yeah.
love that.
Did you see his quick stick recently? He was just sat on the backside, and it looked like the ball just touched the mesh and teleported into the goal.
He does that with passes. And then look, he's a great low angle shooter, so he can play that low wing.
Yeah.
He's equally good from the high wing.
Yeah.
And he's a sneaky dodger. You know, he's not.
He
gonna-
has, I thought.
I watch him play. You know, he works guys back and forth. He's got a great release. So I was thrilled with the pick. We needed a lefty, obviously losing Josh Byrne, and they're not the same player. But I think that you know, Owen is going to be a great fit for our offense, and will certainly help us on that left side.
So do you feel like you? I'm sorry. Alex,
No,
do
I was
you
just
feel
going to say that was like a great point, because I think people forgot about the Josh Byrne.
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
just like recent news. I don't
Yeah.
think people really thought about
And
that.
that's what I was going to ask is like, did you feel like after that news, okay, we need a lefty now? Because a lot of mock drafts had Chris Kavanaugh to you guys at 5.
I love Kavanaugh. I think he's an awesome player. My offense is going to have 3 lefties and 3 righties on the field every time we play.
Okay.
We'll have complete balance, and I don't have complete balance on the roster.
Yeah.
Another righty really wouldn't have done us any good. Not that Kavanaugh's not great,
Yeah.
but it would have made us that much more lopsided.
Right.
And I would have had too many righties and not enough lefties. So for us, we had to have a lefty, the best available left-handed player in the draft. And you know, it was going to be the Cannons were either going to take McAsee or they were going to take Hiltz, and we were going to take the other. And we knew that could happen at 8, which allowed us to move up to 13 and 16.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, so you know, for us. In those 2 picks, if you want to go through those one at a time, maybe.
We talked about that. I was going to let Alex.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and again, I said I'm the North Carolina guy. I'm also the defense guy here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Levi Virch pick, love it.
Yes.
That guy is, bro. He's just
He's an animal.
he's rabid. He has human rabies. That guy.
What I love about him is that he can create transition and chaos in the middle of the field. I also love the flexibility. He's playing close defense most of the time, but he could just as easy jump up on a wing. I think on an outlet or a quick clear, he can create offense.
That's super valuable because like people think that a lot of offense like has to come from an LSM. I think it's even more dangerous when it comes from your close.
You know, in the clearing game, you know, we'll be able to get the ball into his stick and allow him to clear the ball. He can stretch the field if he wants to. We have, you know, Troy Ray, who's a phenomenal LSM.
Got a lot of hair on the defense now.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Minus Jared Newman. Sorry, man. I'm also going bald, so I can say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Levi Virch has a crazy head of hair. We almost gave him best flow last year.
He's going to be. I was excited. You know, when the draft, as you start to watch and you see where guys are falling or guys are being taken, and we looked at we didn't think that Virch was even a possibility. I mean, we had talked about Jack McDonald, who we both really like his length. I love the way he plays at Maryland. He makes great decisions with the ball as he clears. He's not looking to do too much. He's a great cover guy. He's long. He's strong. So we expected to get him. And then realizing that Virch was available, that's kind of what happened.
If Virch wasn't available, would you have picked Jack McDonald at 13?
We probably would have taken Jack at 13, and then we would have taken a short stick D midi at 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I thought the pick was going. We were just watching upstairs, and I think I was saying like just predicting like a Ben Ramsey, and then we saw Jack McDonald, and like you were saying, he just plays like a Terp.
Yeah.
Plays ball.
Yeah.
Guys that play for John Tillman make great decisions. They're smart. They're selfless.
Yeah.
They do what's best for the team over and over and over again. And I would love to be able to coach a guy who's already thinking that way, right? We have to put the chaos first and you know, the big picture, and we don't need a guy who wants to try and go down and score every time he touches it. And I just feel like he's a great 1-2 punch. You know, you look at Troy Ray, who's a phenomenal, smart, you know, long stick midi, but not the same size by any means. And I think that McDonald gives us the ability to match up differently on bigger midfielders and guys that are oversized.
6'5" for those that don't know.
Yeah, 6'5", 210, crazy length, runs the field great, and he'll score if he has to.
Yeah.
But he'd prefer to get covered and move the ball, which for me is a priority.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people were scratching their heads on the pick. I know the guys on the set were during to be honest, when you saw PLL put out the graphic this week, like Maryland has produced the most starters in the league, there's a reason why that is. You know, like they have pro ready talent.
It was the fact that Virch was available and we knew we could still get J-Mac at 16, and was like, how do we pass this guy up, right? When you watch the NFL draft, you know, you hear them talk a lot about the best available player. Yeah. We didn't want to. I mean, most of the short stick D middies that we would have taken went in the 4th round. Right. Not that they're not great players, they are. And if we had a 4th round pick, I would have loved that. But I wasn't going to use the 16 pick to pick a. And the other thing was, which got a little bit challenging, was that we love Hess. So we had already drafted Hess.
I know.
Don't get me started. That's a whole nother. So we would have loved to have drafted Hess again.
Yeah.
And if he hadn't been taken at 15, we would have had one heck of a conversation about that. But once he was gone, Spencer and I were both like, look, let's just take the best available player. We'll sort it out, down the line. And so, I get it. It's a little head scratching. We're going to have to pick up a short stick D midi at camp or from one of the guys that's undrafted. There are a few that are still available. We have the 5th pick on Thursday, where we have one roster spot left, and there's a few guys that are still available that we happen to like in that role. So
in the defensive midfielder role,
in the short stick D midi role, and offensively, when you think about what was available, right? Once we got to 13 and 16, I don't need another righty. Not that I would, but Kavanaugh wasn't there. If Kavanaugh is at 13, I'd probably take Kavanaugh. Right?
Yeah.
But then you get to that next tier. It's like, is the guy that I'm drafting now better than one of the guys that I have on offense? And I just wasn't positive that the answer was yes.
Yeah. So your last pick was 16. Were there any conversations about potentially trading back into the 3rd or the 4th round?
Joe was, the Redwoods were trying to they really
Do
wanted
you one of their
player.
fourths?
I wasn't. What they wanted in return was way too much for what I want. You know, to trade for a third. Not that I wouldn't have wanted one of those players, but what he wanted us to give up wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So we'll talk. Maybe there's a way to do that and pick up somebody else. But yeah, I'm excited to go to camp. We'll pick up a couple more guys, and it's time to rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you guys get.
Yeah.
thank
All right, man. Well, that's all the time we got for you. Thank you
good.
so much for coming
Thank
on,
you
man.
guys. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, Roy.
You guys are great.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
man.
you for everyone.
Yes, sir. We'll be there.
Wait.
Thank you everyone for
I was
tuning
looking
in.
at houses down there. I'm like, you know, I'm not moving there yet, but like.
Oh, dude, the house right beside me opened up. Dude, we're gonna be neighbors. Yeah.
New neighbors. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in for another edition of TLN Live.
Yep.
We'll be back around at some point. You'll probably find us on Instagram next.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm Kevin Boylard for Alex Poole and our guests this evening. Thank you for tuning in to the draft and the TLN Draft Live show.